Okay, picture this. It's a freezing cold day. The roads are just a sheet of ice, super slippery, super dangerous. And then you see the salt trucks roll out. And like actual magic, the ice just starts to disappear. But how? I mean, salt isn't hot. It's just as cold as the ice it's touching. So what's the secret?
It's a fantastic question, isn't it? Because it seems to break a basic rule of science. You need heat to melt ice, right? Well, maybe not. Let's dig in and figure out what's really going on.
And right off the bat, here's our first major clue. That whole idea you have in your head about salt somehow heating up the ice, it's totally wrong. The real answer is so much cooler, and it has everything to do with chemistry.
So let's pull back the curtain on this winter magic trick. To really get how salt does what it does, we first have to understand what's happening with all the tiny little molecules we can't even see.
It's actually pretty incredible. When water gets down to 0 degrees Celsius, that's 32 Fahrenheit, all the little water molecules stop zipping around. They slow down, grab onto each other, and lock into this beautiful, rigid crystal pattern. And that perfect pattern, well, that's what we call ice.
Okay, so if 0 degrees is the magic number for ice to form, how does salt just waltz in and change the rules of the game? Well, this is where our main character, Salt, steps onto the stage. And its power isn't about heat at all. It's purely chemical. Get this, salt's superpower is literally called freezing point depression. It sounds kind of sad, but all it means is that salt has the amazing ability to lower or depress the temperature at which water freezes. So once salt gets involved, 0 degrees just isn't cold enough anymore. The water needs to get even colder before it can freeze again. It's the exact same reason we add salt to the ice when we make homemade ice cream. It makes the icy slush so cold it can actually freeze the cream. And it's the key to turning ice on the road back into water, even when it's below freezing outside.
But how does it do that? What is actually happening on that molecular battlefield that forces solid ice to just give up? Let's zoom way in and see the action up close.
Okay, here's the wild part. Even on what looks like a totally solid piece of ice, there's always an invisible, microscopic layer of liquid water right on the surface. When a grain of salt lands there, it instantly dissolves and splits apart into tiny particles called ions. Think of these ions as little troublemakers. They squeeze in between the water molecules and just get in the way, making it impossible for them to link up and lock back into that perfect solid ice pattern. And with its crystal structure totally broken and unable to reform, the solid ice simply can't hold it together anymore. It gives up and melts back into liquid water. It's this brilliant chemical chain reaction that literally dismantles the ice from the outside in. So salt is our winter superhero, right? Problem solved? Well, not so fast. Like any good story, there are a few complications. There are some real limits and some pretty serious consequences to think about. So if salt works by making things colder, is there a point where it gets too cold for even salt to work its magic? Here's something most people don't know. Yep, there's a limit, a hard limit. Once the temperature drops below about -9 degrees Celsius, or around 15 degrees Fahrenheit, regular road salt just stops being effective. It's just too cold. The salt can't start that melting process, and the ice pretty much wins the battle. So why do we use it everywhere? Well, it's simple. Salt is cheap, it works fast, and it absolutely makes our roads safer. But, and this is a big but, there's a major downside. That same chemical reaction is super corrosive. It eats away at our cars, it damages bridges and roads, and when it runs off into the soil, it can be really harmful to plants. Now, you don't have to take my word for any of this. The cool thing about this science is that you can prove it to yourself with a super simple experiment you can do in like 2 minutes. No, seriously, try this. Go to your freezer, grab 2 ice cubes, and put them on a plate. Sprinkle a little bit of regular table salt on just one of them, and then just sit back and watch. You will literally see freezing point depression happen right before your eyes as the salted cube starts melting way faster than the plain one. So let's recap the whole thing real quick. 1. Ice is just water molecules locked in a pattern at 0 degrees Celsius. 2. Salt crashes the party and lowers that freezing point. 3. Salt's little ions get in there and physically break apart that ice pattern. And 4. This whole process forces the ice to melt back into water. Simple as that. And that is the absolute key takeaway. The next time you see salt being spread on an icy road, you'll know exactly what's happening. It isn't magic, and it sure isn't heat. It's just awesome, elegant chemistry doing its thing. I mean, this is just one example of the amazing science that's happening all around us, every single day, in the most ordinary things. So what's something else you've always wondered about? Let that curiosity run wild, and think about what mystery we should break down next.